We also heard about Trump's picks to head the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. We also heard about his pick for the ambassador to the United Nations as well. I spoke about this briefly with political analyst Brian Sobel earlier today. Let's listen. So first off here, let's talk about Elise Stefanik. She's a representative from New York, and she's one of Trump's staunchest defenders going back to his first impeachment. She'll be our next ambassador to the UN. If confirmed, she would represent American interests at the United Nations as Trump vows to quell conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East. So, Brian, Stefanik ended up being a pretty loud voice during the college protests over the Gaza war, didn't she?
She sure was, and she called out these universities for not clamping down on the protests on the campuses. She was quite vociferous, and I think that's the style that she'll take to the United Nations. And of course, if you think back a little bit to when Nikki Haley was at the United Nations, these are going to be people who, and were people that were willing to take on these countries around the world that thought they had carte blanche in New York at the United Nations to say what they wanted and when they wanted. And it'll be a different pattern than you've seen over the last 4 years.
So Stefanik is the third-ranking member of House leadership right now, so there will be a gap to fill, correct?
Yes, and that's what happens, when the incoming president dips into the ranks of the Senate or the House, and because usually the person that's being selected has a great reputation, has been around for a while, for whatever party, they are important to the institution from which they come. And so that is going to be the case here as Trump picks various people, whether it's SecD, Secretary of Defense, or the United Nations ambassador, or head of EPA, or whatever it is. If these people are holding offices in the Congress of the United States, you lose them, and a lot of times they are ranking members.
All right. Speaking of the EPA, we did hear that he chose former New York Representative Lee Zeldin to serve as his pick to lead the Environmental Protection Agency. So, Brian, to our knowledge, does Zeldin appear to have experience with environmental issues?
I don't think deep experience, but I think having served, he has experience, and he is going to go forward with the Trump administration's agenda on critical issues that come before the EPA. And of course, Trump has made it very clear with drill, and fracking, and taking a bigger, different posture in the world, including just in the whole natural gas environment. One of the things that the president talked about is what our position was in the world vis-a-vis our energy policies before he left and turned the White House over to the Biden administration. And he's been real clear that we've lost tremendous ground over the last 4 years, Austin, and he intends to pick up ground quickly. And so his pick, I think, will reflect exactly what Donald Trump wants to see.
So first off here, let's talk about Elise Stefanik. She's a rep here. This caught my attention over the weekend. There's been some chatter about whether some of the elder Supreme Court justices should consider a strategic retirement in light of Trump's win, namely Thomas Alito and Sotomayor. The strategy differs based on each justice's political leanings, of course. So Brian, what in recent memory is causing people to think this way? And does this line of strategy defy the ultimate design of the court?
Well, I think it does. I think we select people to go to the court, and unless and until we have term limits in the court, it's going to be the justices that make their decision about when they're going to walk away. It's a hugely coveted job by anybody who ends up on the Supreme Court, which is why they will resist efforts to walk away for political purposes. So I don't expect to see changes there. But, as this pendulum in the United States swings back towards the center, I think some of this symbolism over substance will go away. For example, the Obama advisor who suggested that maybe the president step down so that Kamala Harris can become the first person of color, female, to be president of the United States. This stuff is just chatter. I think these Supreme Court justices will stay until they go, as they have all through history, because of health, or they just feel like they can no longer get their arms around the job.
Thanks, Brian. Good to see you. Talk soon.
Good to see you. Chat soon.